Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Juubi Naruto x Kaguya, part 3. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Oi, what are you guys doing? Enko said, wincing, as she was lifted up bridal style. Taking you somewhere safe. Where else? The clone answered. We don't need your help, we're capable of helping ourselves. Kushina snapped, as she ripped herself from the clone, assisting her trying to walk only to grunt in pain, and almost fall over before the same clone she brushed off to hold her up. In the current situation you're in, you can't even walk, let alone fight. Why are you helping us? You could just kill us, and move on with something else. Especially if you're a god like he claimed. I could, but you three interest me. Just what exactly do you mean by that? Naomi asked before wincing, as she tried to sit up. Another clone that was carrying Tezuna's corpse answered, I can sense negative emotions, and all three of you possess many. Though what they're directed at, and why I don't know. Kushina scowled, just tell us what you want already. The clone rolled his eyes. You can cut a tough act, Kushina-san. It has no effect on me whatsoever, so honestly just act normal. I am acting normal. She lied. Whatever you say. Juubi Naruto glanced around at the dead fallen gods he had picked apart, their bodies torn between broken bones, slit throats, or mental breakdown by his Sharingan. All but one was accounted for. Clang. Summoning a katana in his hand, and raising it behind him defensively, he had blocked a backstab meant to kill him by none other than Ryo. So we meet again, freak. Ryo taunted only to get no reply. Don't wanna talk? Fine, you'll just die in silence. The scarred man then charged, sweeping madly at Juubi Naruto madly in a stray of unbalanced, sloppy, arrogant strikes. Being the skilled duelist he was, Juubi Naruto simply whacked Ryo across the face with his hilt, before thrusting his blade into the shorter male's thigh, causing him to scream in pain. You little shit. I'll make you beg me for mercy after that. Slashing madly, it was clear to anyone that Ryo didn't know how to wield a sword, or simply was just too angry to use it properly. Juubi Naruto simply dodged the strikes, angering the fallen god even more, who continued to slash wildly. Making eye contact with Ryo, his Sharingan spun, captivating Ryo. His eyes went dull, and then he fell back. Naruto's Tsukiyomi. Ryo woke to see his comrades well and alive cheering him on. What happened? He asked, rubbing his eyes. You did it. You killed that pathetic bastard. One of them shouted. A grin came to Ryo's scarred face. Of course I did. And now I will assume rule over the world, and everything will be mine. He shouted, expecting cheers. He got none. When he turned to look at them, he gasped in horror. His former alive fallen gods were now dead. Their eyes plucked out, organs spilled out hanging them, and their mouths carved into creepy demonic smiles. What the fuck? Ryo shouted, falling on his ass attempting to turn, and ran away only to come face first with his deceased son. Daddy? The boy said, moving towards the man. No, get back. Daddy, don't you remember me? The boy's face began more disfigured, one side beginning to melt while the other turned scarred, as he began to start crying in pain, holding his chest. You caused this. The child blamed Ryo, who was too terrified to do anything. The boy's body then turned to flames, as he screamed, which would be somewhat adorable had he not been melting. He charged his former father, who was still frozen on the spot, thus catching him on fire, as well. Only when he began to burn did he finally react. Get off me. No, I can't die yet, please stop. No. It ended with Juubi Naruto looking down at the remains of Ryo. His body had been burned badly beyond recognition, his eyes bleeding profusely, and ooze coming out of mouth, nose, and ears. That was easier than I thought, he said before disappearing back into his original body. Devastation. That was the only real word to describe the battlefield. Torn ground, chunks on earth everywhere, destroyed trees, burning bushes, gaping holes in the ground. In the middle stood two men. One being Ao, though it wouldn't be your fault if you didn't recognize him. His kimono had been ripped, one of his pupil-less eyes being swollen shut, the other one having a vein leading down, indicating he had the Byakugan. His horns were broken, being lost somewhere in the woods. And multiple cut marks all over his body. The second was Naruto, him being more identifiable. His shirt had been destroyed, forcing him to go shirtless, his left horn broken in half, blood dripping from his right eye that was swollen shut, his left arm black, and scarred from a beating from the trees, and Juukan strikes. And his left eye that once held a 9 Tomo's Rin Sharingan, had returned to its basic Rinnegan form. It's over, Uzumaki. I've won, you've lost. And once I rip the power of the 10 tails from your body, I'll take over this timeline, and everything else. I'll be the strongest there ever was. Ao shouted to the sky. Even at my weakest, you still can't kill me. How disappointing. Naruto mumbled. What did you say? Ao vehemently snapped. I'm currently not at my strongest at all, far from it actually. When the steam gave me a chance to cover myself, I created another body, you know him, as Juubi Naruto. My darker half. I gave him more than a generous amount of chakra to try out a new version of Tsukiyomi I had in mind for Ryo. This was how you saw him, and I at the same time, instead of one of us having control over just one body. Ao's smirk dropped, and an infuriated look took place. He had been playing. He wasn't even treated as an equal, he had looked down upon him. General Ao once again, no. He would kill this version of Naruto, then kill the Yami version. Yes. Then he would take those 3 females, and any other female he desired for himself. The universe would fear him, and him only. Ao, the Conqueror. He almost missed a dark malevolent chakra shot into the back of Naruto, who kneeled over in slight pain. Seeing his face, he smirked before rushing forward with chakra pushed into his feet, sending all the available chakra he had into his remaining hand for a killing Juken strike. He would rule all, Ao the Conqueror, Ao the Brave. He would be feared and respected by A. His throat was caught, as he was brought face to Naruto, who had stood up. The chakra in both his feet and hand quite literally had disappeared. The evil chakra flowing off of Naruto scared the former Otsutsuki general immensely, but he wouldn't let this monster know that. Naruto opened his left eye, as the wind kicked up, revealing the familiar 4-ringed, 9 Tamo's purple rin Sharingan eye. His skin turned black, as a star formed above his nose. Pathetic. I wasn't even paying attention, and you still couldn't catch me off guard, and you want people to call you a god. Naruto taunted, as he threw Ao into the ground. A crater immediately formed due to the force and size of the heavier man. Witness the true power of a god, and how he wipes out worms like you who dare defy him. Chibaku Tensei. A black sphere formed between Naruto's hands before he threw it into the sky. The sphere began attracting pieces of the earth, trees, and even Ao, and Naruto were pulled into the general direction of the black bull. The taller of the two began scrambling for other pieces of earth, in an attempt to reach the ground once again, before being pulled back by his hair by Naruto, who threw him up even higher, before descending to the ground himself. Once the ball had been entirely formed, and Ao had been trapped inside, Naruto began his speech. Congratulations General Ao, for your services against the universe, and myself. You'll be given a merciful death for one of such importance, as yourself. Please do remember when you die, this was a special occasion just for you. Benko, Kushina, Naomi, and a revived Tazuna had been patching their wounds with the supplies given to them by the clones, and a couple wolves who had an odd sense of loyalty to Naruto. They didn't question it, seeing how they had saved their lives, were wearing completely different clothes. Benko had been bandaged around her midsection, though still wearing her fishnet shirt, and fishnet stockin's. Did I get that right? She also wore a black shirt with the words bad bitch on it in white, with a skirt that had kunai pouches, which she had also been resupplied by the clones. Her hair was back in its ponytail form. Kushina was wearing a fishnet shirt, orange shirt, black shinobi pants with 4 kunai pouches, a custom-made katana with a diamond-studded hilt with its own sheath on her thigh. Her hair had been dried out, and given back its shine. Naomi had this time decided to bandage her chest before putting on a black shirt that exposed her midriff. She rebandaged her arms, along with fingerless gloves, and black shinobi pants. A brown belt that had 2 kunai pouches, and across her back was a sword sheath where she had a tanto secured. She had turned her into 2 pigtails with 2 bangs in the front hanging down. While they were changing, the 3 women had made sure on more than one occasion to make sure the clones weren't looking, which they found amusing. Tazuna had simply preferred to just be bandaged and given new building clothes. When he had been revived, naturally he freaked out, but after a slap by Anko, and a brief explanation he was for the most part calm, but you could still tell he couldn't get over the fact he actually died, and was then brought back to life. What the hell is that? Anko shouted, drawing everyone else's attention. The other 3 noticeably got worried as well, and it wasn't like they were unjustified. About a large distance from them was a giant ball made of literal earth, and then there was a meteor coming from the sky right on top of it, as if it was attempting to crush it. Boss is just trying to make sure Ao stays dead, though he might be going overboard. One of the clones answered. Well, how do we stop it? Kushina asked. You can't. With the size and force they have, attempting to stop it would be suicide at its very finest. Where's Naruto then? Shouldn't he be over here with us? Naomi asked. Who do you think made it? The second clone responded, feeling a pull. But if he's over there, wouldn't he die? Anko but screamed. She might not have known the guy, but he was more than okay after all he had done for them so far. The 3 clones just stared at her like she was dumb. What part of universal godlike being with powers you have no idea about do you not understand? Boom. The meteor and ball of rock had finally made contact with the earth in an explosion that shook the ground and forest, sending powerful gusts of wind to clash against the leaves and bushes around them, leaving an eerily chill. Kushina went to question the clones only to see smoke. Where'd they go? Naomi asked. Dispelled. When the owner of said clones goes unconscious, they disappear. Anko said before seeing the wolves whine and head off in the direction of the blast. Well then, what are we waiting for? Let's follow them. The younger of the 3 said, then ran after the wolves. That's the first time I've seen her run after a boy like that, Kushina mumbled. Anko giggled before rubbing her sensei's shoulder. Just be thankful it's someone responsible, and not someone back in that shithole village. With that, she took off after them. Kushina shrugged. She couldn't argue with that logic. She turned to Tazuna, who had been knocked out by the wind, and rolled her eyes. Civilians were so fragile. She picked him up, then chased after the group. Wow. If it looked horrible before, it was beyond fuck now. The wasteland, yes, wasteland was destroyed. Grass, dirt, rock, broken trees, you name it was here. Where the hell could he be in all this mess? Enko said, as she moved a couple rocks. How about starting where the giant crater is? Naomi pointed out. Enko blinked. There was like a huge crater just opposite of where she was. Oh yay. The three females approached the crater to see Naruto wiping off dirt and grime of his face and body. He looked up at them and gave a toothy grin. Oh hey there ladies. I'm incredibly grateful that you came back for me, he said. They rolled their eyes watching as he climbed out the crater, but gasped when they saw his current physical condition. How are you even standing? Enko shouted. I'm awesome like that, duh. He stuck his tongue out at the purple-haired woman. So where's that freak with the world domination plan? She asked, trying not to stare at his chest, and failing miserably. She wasn't the only one having that same problem. Kushina and Naomi, for all their willpower, couldn't look away. Dead. I just don't know what I want to do now. Naruto mumbled as he sat down. What do you mean? I mean I don't know if I want to go back home and chill or stay here and piss people off. Don't you have to report back or something? Naomi asked curiously. The Otsutsuki waved her off. Nah, you'd have to be an idiot to think how it could actually hurt me, let alone kill me. Well, how strong are you really if you're able to do something like that and still live? Naruto walked ahead, signaling them to follow him. They did. He then summoned a shadow clone, making sure that forest is returned to its original state. Leave nothing untouched. It nodded and sped off. How exactly is he supposed to cover up that giant mess? And answer my earlier question. Enko barked before squeaking, as Naruto picked her up and carried her over his shoulder. I'll explain that, just calm down, he said, walking over to a stream. I'll calm down when you put me back on my feet. The Redeed simply sat down with Enko in his lap, glaring at him. I was once like you, Naomi, except I was a boy. Anyways, I was born a Jinchuriki. My mother and father died upon my birth, saving their pathetic village, and father sealing Kurama within me. Kushina whispered, shocked and somewhat dumbfounded that this man before them was once a Jinchuriki. Her fellow kunoichi weren't any better. My Jinchuriki status was revealed to the village by a foolish old Kage who believed his honest and kind citizens and shinobi would understand and could tell the difference between a monster and a child. Oh, how wrong he was. At the hour of my status being revealed, multiple demands of me being killed as retribution for the monster's actions or simply because I withheld Kurama himself. I was beaten, starved, and mocked every day for 12 years straight, with very little people actually caring about me, though they of course had their own agendas about me, as well. My teaching was sabotaged. I was mocked for not being able to do something so easy by the other students and adults alike. I was told I'd never amount to anything, and I'd always be a loser no one cared for. He chuckled. Naomi winced. That sounded a lot of how the people back in Konoha had said in their attempt to break her. Of course it hadn't worked, seeing how she had more confidence about herself, and she had been told daily by either her mother, Anko, or Tsume how proud they were of her, but Naruto sounded like he didn't really have anyone at all. I had failed the exams 3 times, only graduating because I somehow managed to learn a forbidden jutsu, and stop a traitorous chunin who also revealed my status to me. I was placed on a team with an annoying loud fangirl who at the time I had a crush on, an emo loser who thought he was Kami's gift from heaven, and a one-eyed pervert who gave more fucks about his porn than he did about actually training us. Enko and Kushina glanced at each other, which sounded awful like their eyes whitened. Kakashi. Me, I was the worst. No types of training, only one that I spammed repeatedly, only because it was the only thing I knew, and I had the chakra to do so. I was loud, obnoxious, annoying, dumb, uncoordinated, and an all-around mess. No one wanted to be around me, and for a while, I was hurt over it. I wanted to be someone who everyone respected and loved, to be known as Naruto, not Kyuubi, the 9-tailed fox in human form, or a blonde idiot who was playing ninja. His mangekyou unconsciously formed in his right eye, spinning slowly as he gritted his teeth. The thing is, no one wanted to help me get better. Better to have the brat clueless and useless until we need him, but not strong enough as to where he can fight back against us, as they said. My first C-rank mission, I was completely overwhelmed. I had no idea what to do, so naturally I was beaten badly. Did anyone care about Naruto? No. They only cared about that loser because he was the Rookie of the Year. Bah. He only got the fucking title because he was spoiled silly. The 3 winced, as they felt his chakra spike violently in waves that easily dwarfed the malice Kyuubi had made when it had attacked the village. It was just so hard to breathe, so suffocating, so dominating. By some miracle I had inspired the people of the town we were in to fight back against this fat and greedy businessman. It was also when I first heard the term precious people, people who you cared for, those who you put your life on the line for time and time again. I understood that, but I also understood I had no one even close to that. No one cared for me, so in turn, I didn't care for them. Naruto recounted the many alternate dimensions of his world he traveled through and experienced. The heartache, the anger, the rage, the sorrow, and finally acceptance. He had been conflicted for some time on how he actually saw his parents, Kushina and Minato. He had seen too much, and done too much to view them as Tusan and Kasan. There had been dimensions where they had lived only to attempt to turn him into a weapon, where they saw him as Kurama and thus abandoned him, and even times where they had chosen a second child over him and had simply forgotten about his existence. Other dimensions had them living and being real parents who cared, trained him, loved him, and always him before themselves. He had thus come to the conclusion that depending on the dimension he was in, he would decide if they were friend or foe, and just what role they would have. So, Enko interrupted his mental thinking. If you had no one to call precious, what did you do then? He smirked at her, causing the purple-haired Jonin to blush slightly. Heeding my advice, the villagers and townsfolk did fight back against the oppressor, and after winning named a bridge after me. I was hailed as a hero, someone who gave them hope and courage. I was ecstatic that at least a few people had treated me like an actual human being. However, my happiness didn't last long. My harpy of a teammate attempted to make the people see her dear crush was the hero, and a blonde dunce like me could never do anything right. It didn't help that said crush had threatened to take my life if I ever took his so-called glory away from him, well of said people. He said, still daydreaming of things he occurred through different dimensions. I'd say the biggest blow came from my supposed sensei who scolded and reprimanded me because I somehow got in Sasuke's way and made a mess of things. Those three things altogether had utterly broken me, mentally. Even though I had done nothing wrong, I was being blamed for an egotistical bitch's inability to care for others. The three females were listening intently, feeling rage of such a horrible thing happening to someone like Naruto. I had lashed out, verbally, at them. I let all my frustrations of not only them, but their shitty little village, as a whole go, with a special fuck you to each of them before running. I didn't know where I was going to run, but I just knew I had to go somewhere. He recalled yet another memory of how stunned and shocked Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura were of the dope verbally ripping into them. It was there in the woods that I discovered I had something they didn't. And what was that? Kushina asked, to cut in between crying or killing whoever had made Naruto go through such torment. Waiter. The Dijutsu of the Sage of Six Paths, and what was rumored to be a myth, the Rinnegan Samsara. It is said that in times of disorder, one who wields the Rinnegan is sent down from the heavens to become either a god of creation, who will calm the world, or a god of destruction, who will reduce everything to nothingness. He answered before activating his Rinnegan, showing them exactly what it looked like without the Tomo. If you're a former student of Kakashi, why haven't we heard of you before? Enko asked, mesmerized by the rings of the purple eye. I'll just show you. Telling it all out would take days, he muttered. Before they could ask what he meant, he tapped their foreheads, forcing them into unconsciousness. No slamming his head on the ground, he summoned a giant wolf that easily was larger than Gamabunta. In a while hasn't it, Ko? Naruto asked the giant wolf. Shin gave a grin, showing his sharp teeth that were sharp to the bone. Too long, my friend, far too long. How are you? His voice boomed with power and authority which would intimidate all those who couldn't withstand it. The Otsutsuki smiled back, admiring his century-long companion. Shin's fur was black and spiky, his eyes golden, and his ears pointy. He had eventually absorbed Shin, who was at one point the Juubi, and had become his successor. He had then made Shin into his personal summon, and had grown on him much like Kurama had. The wolf eagerly accepted, and the two had a strong relationship ever since. I've decided to roam yet another dimension of my homeland. Whether it is, as a conqueror or peacemaker, has yet to be seen. He answered, as he loaded the women and Tazuna onto Shin before hopping on himself. Shin snorted, of all the dimensions and different worlds we've been to, powers we've seen, women we've seen, why do you continue to come to this wretched land? Things never end well when you do. The people of the world all fear you at some point. Naruto hummed as Shin ran through the clearing, his booming feet easily causing a ruckus, and would likely scare anyone who heard it to death. Other than sentimental value, I absolutely adore watching, as all the weaklings who believed I was weak, gullible, and a pushover scatter away like insects when I return to destroy their precious lives. He said, sensing conflict up ahead. There's a struggle up ahead. It smells like that woman Tsunami and her child Inari, the family of the bridge builder. I'll give them a warm welcome. A very warm welcome indeed, Naruto said, as he disappeared in a flock of crows. Shin rolled his eyes. Even after years of godhood, fighting, and fucking every desirable woman imaginable, Naruto was still the same. Not that he would have it any other way, of course. Tsunami screamed, as the thug held her down, ripping her clothes off. It had just been as normal as the day could be. She was cooking dinner, worried for her father's safety, as he had gone out to request help from Konoha. He had been gone for more than a few hours, so it was only natural. Then 3 armed thugs working for Gato had broken into the house, grabbing her and her son, and forcing them outside the house. Apparently Gato had caught wind of her father going to Konoha for assistance, and had sent a group of men to deal with him. However, in the event he did live, she and Inari would be used as bargaining chips for inspiration, as to not finish building the bridge. Though the thugs had other plans which involved forcing themselves onto her and of her child no less. She had already been raped once, she didn't want it to again. "Someone please help me," she screamed, and was rewarded with a smack to the face by the thug. A nasty-looking man in his mid-40s. "Shut up, bitch, you should be grateful we're doing this for you. Don't worry, after we're done giving you more kids, you won't ever feel lonely again, we'll pass you around to everyone." He laughed, as he dropped his pants and underwear showing his member. "Kasan, no." Inari yelled with tears in his eyes. "Shut up, you stupid brat." The second thug barked, as he punched Inari in the face, giving the boy a black eye, and almost losing consciousness. "No one's coming to save you, bitch, just shut up, and take our cocks." The third grinned, as he began moving towards the held-down woman. "Are you sure about that?" All 5 people looked up to see a shirtless Redeed with multiple wounds on his body. In their minds, the fact he was still moving was nothing short of a miracle. "Get lost before we finish you off, buddy. This doesn't have anything to do with you." The first thug snapped, angry he had been denied the chance of fucking the woman. Naruto grinned, as he began walking towards them, cracking his knuckles. 2 of the thugs pulled out shanks, as they walked on the Redeed, "Told you to get lost, now you gotta die." The thugs lunged at Naruto only to find him gone. "Where'd he go?" "Irk." The 2 turned around to see their third partner holding his throat, pulling out a kunai that had been lodged in it, before he fell to the ground dead. "Boo." The 2 jumped, and turned around only for their vision to go dark. Tsunami and Inari watched, as Naruto walked towards them, and yelled, "You 2 alright?" They nodded dumbly, still not able to comprehend what had just happened. Shin came out of the clearing, as 3 irate kunoichi and 1 dizzy Tazuna got off, Tsunami and Inari immediately running to hug Tazuna, and Anko, Naomi, and Kushina standing in front of Naruto with their arms crossed. Shin simply watched the exchange amused. "Oh hi there," Naruto said, as he took a precautionary step back. God or not, upset women were annoying to deal with. "We are going to talk about this, and we're going to do this privately," Kushina said, growling. "Yay, gotcha." He waved them off, and raised an eyebrow when they all raised their kai directly at him. "Now?" Anko said. "Shin, watch them for me, will you?" The wolf nodded, as he shrunk to a more respectable size, and walked over to the family. Naruto however didn't notice, as he was being dragged into the forest. One thing was more than likely for sure, Otsutsuki Naruto was back in the elemental nations. Nothing was going to be the same. Naruto sighed, as he sat up against a tree, his blue eyes watching his kunoichi, as they fought against his clones, displaying good taijutsu and ninjutsu skills, but not great. Inko flipped over a clone, and launched snakes at him, while his back was turned only for the clone to slash the snakes into smoke with a kunai, and charge at her. The clone clashed kunai with Anko before kicking her in the stomach before flipping her over his head. The clone then slammed his foot into Anko's chest, making her cough up blood before kicking her aside. Naruto's eyes then traveled to Naomi, who was getting her ass beat quite literally. He winced, as she was thrown into a tree. He was positive he heard something break. His eyes then finally landed on the mother of said girl, Kushina, who was in a sword duel against his final clone, and was actually faring well. Kushina blocked an aggressive thrust by the clone, and retaliated with a slash, forcing it to block. Returning with a growl, the clone unleashed powerful slashes at the redeeded woman, who was unable to keep up, resulting in her getting slashed across the body, giving her multiple wounds. The clone then flipped over Kushina, who only kept up with him due to the clone going 40%, and Kushina's own battle instincts. The clone kicked Kushina in the face, sending her flying only to reappear next to her, grab her leg, and slam her into the ground brutally. "That's enough, we're done for the day," Naruto said, his voice automatically roaring over the empty forest. The clones nodded before healing the 3 women, then dispelling. The 3 kunoichi then stood before the Otsutsuki with their heads bowed, as a sign of respect. Originally he had thought when the 3 women had approached him angrily that they were horrified they had been saved by a guy who was quite literally a god in every sense, and would demand he leave them alone forever. How wrong he was. Flashback. "Wait, so the reason you're mad is because I didn't tell you I was basically a primordial being earlier on?" Naruto asked. "Of course I am." Kushina yelled, thinking that alone obviously made sense. It didn't. "And why exactly is that, Kushina?" "Do you know how long I've been waiting for something like this to happen? Ever since I taught Naomi how to read, we would always read the Uzumaki history of how the Otsutsuki were the origin of our clan. Not just our clan, but it adopted the Senju and Uzumaki as well. I had always prayed to Kami that if one was ever returned to the world, I would serve them without question, as long as they helped you destroy Konoha and ruin everyone who tried to kill your daughter." Naruto finished. The Redeed nodded with her head down, tears threatening to escape her eyes. A hand on her shoulder brought her out of her self-misery, as Naruto looked her in her eyes. "Very well, Uzumaki Kushina, I will grant you your request to destroy and ruin Konoha." All I ask is your undying loyalty to me and my plans for this world. His answer was Kushina slamming into him with a hug as she freely cried, yes. Thank you. Thank you. His eyes traveled to the other two women, and what of you two? Do you have the same desire to watch that village burn, or is it something more? Enko stepped up first, holding her arm, as bit her lips shyly. I want to watch Konoha burn from the inside. I want to be by Kushina-sensei and Naomi's side, but most importantly, I don't want to be forgotten. I don't want to be a distant memory that just shows up when someone needs something done. Naomi stepped forward afterwards, her eyes showing hatred and fury. I want that stupid village, and everyone in it to die. I've heard about what they say behind our backs, the things they do if they got the chance. I hate it. They call us demons and whores, yet they go around selling their bodies to the first one with a few ryo to spend. I just want to live with people who don't hate me, and those I love, that's all. To say everyone was shocked was an understatement. Even Naruto, who had seen it all, was shocked by the rage she had displayed in her voice before he grinned. That shitty village is gonna regret messing with you when I'm done. Flashback end. Since then the three had gotten closer to him, and he had begun training them because, as he said, that village was going to pay. He just didn't like Konoha at all, honestly. It was filled and ruled by arrogant bigots who thought they were above everything in existence and beyond. It was truly amusing and hard not to kill them every time he got bored just to see their scared and terrified faces. He had shown the three the pocket dimensions his Rinchuringen gave him access to. Basically the ones Kaguya took Team 7 in their fight with a few new ones. The only world he hadn't shown them was the snow world, where his fortress had thousands of Zetsu guarding it, and it was honestly more of a training ground and warzone to keep his skills sharp. Naruto-kun, are we improving? Naomi asked before blushing, as his blue eyes met hers. Slowly, but yes, we still need to work on your taijutsu and chakra control. Enko needs more and bigger chakra reserves. Kushina simply needs to get a bit stronger, he said. I still can't believe you can use the Shodame's Milkutin and the Uzumaki clan's chakra chains. That's so cool. Enko squealed. Can you teach us about the Rinnegan and Sharingan's powers? I know those fuckers on the councils are gonna do their best to have that damn Uzumaki unlock the Mangekyo in some feeble attempt to control my daughter, and to some extent, me. Kushina asked, knowing full well of what the council planned to do. After Tako failed to not only break into the Uzumaki compound, but also using her Mangekyo on Kushina and Naomi, she was threatened by Hiruzen. Should she attempt to attack the Uzumaki clan head again, he wouldn't be responsible for what happened to her. Sure, the Uzumaki didn't like that threat, and it only fueled their hatred for him and the village. It made it easier to stomp out their wretched clan even more. It was honestly their last resort, as Kushina only took orders from the Sandang, who came to deliver said orders personally, seeing how none of his Anbu could be trusted. Naruto shrugged, sure. Like I said before, the Rinnegan is the taijutsu of the Rakuto SCNNIN Sage of Six Paths. Even if you merely get a transplanted Rinnegan, it grants immense power. I'm able to see chakra, as well as its flow within the body, and even the activation of the 8 gates. One who possesses the Rinnegan can also easily master any, as well as all 5 natural elements, and create black receivers into which I can transmit my chakra into. For example, he formed a black receiver. These are called the Kuroki JSHINKI chakra receivers. With these I can inject my chakra into those I put them into. Chakra can be transmitted across vast distances, though I usually don't use them at all. The Rinnegan also has the power to control up to 6 bodies called the 6 paths. They're referred to as TNDO-diva, SHURADO-sir, and INGNDO-human, CHIKUSHO-DO-animal, GAKIDO-preta, and JIGOKUDO-naraka. There however is one last path called the GEDO-outer. With the Jido path, a person could control all 6 paths using additional bodies. He informed them. So what do they do? Enko asked for Kushina and Naomi. The Tendo path allows me to control gravity. The Shirado path grants me the ability to turn my arms into weapons or armor. The Ninjendo path grants me the power to rip out someone's soul and read their mind, an invaluable ability. The Chikishoto path allows me to summon many animals, and animals to fight for me, whether I have a summoning contract for them or not. The Gakido path lets me absorb any, and all kinds of ninjutsu. The Jukakudo path allows me to summon and control the King of Hell, a large head mainly used for interrogation. Honestly, it's better for me to show you than tell you. Finally, the Jido path has the ability to revive the dead, cue the shock gasps, and those with certain Rinnegan have their own special powers to make them even more overpowered. He shouted, snapping the females out of their stupor. Do you have special Rinnegan powers? Naomi wondered out loud. Due to having the most overpowered Rinnegan in existence, yes I do. Naruto said, thinking back on just how he acquired every single the Rin Sharingan had. He acquired Limbo from Madara, seeing how the ancient Uzumaki's body had formed with Naruto's during the sealing and absorption. He had stolen a Menetejikara from Sasuke the first time round, after absorbing the Uzumaki Yin chakra. He had acquired the creation of all things from Hagoromo, all-killing ash bones, and Minaminaka, and Yumatsu Hirasaka from Kaguya. Add that with unlocking his 9 Tamos Rin Sharingan, Eternal Mangekyou, and Byakugan from Kaguya, and Shin, he was never really in danger of dying either since his healing factor's speed was unmatched by anything. I am seriously overpowered, he thought before being pulled out of his thoughts by Anko picking his face. Finally. Well, what are they? She grinned brightly at his twitching eye. This was gonna be a long day. Later that day. Anko, Naomi, Kushina all groaned as they entered the house for going dinner in favor of going upstairs to sleep the night away. Naruto walked in shortly afterward with a smirk on his face. After he explained every one of his Rinnegan and Mangekyou powers, he proceeded to train them into the ground brutally. Like he said before, they needed a lot of improvement. Well, Kushina didn't, but Anko and Naomi did. Even though they had gotten rid of Naomi's chakra control problem after he loosened the seal a bit, she needed Taijutsu and ninjutsu work along with how to resist powerful genjutsu. Anko needed assistance with fighting with people in straight-up Taijutsu, and needed other than just snakes along with the reserves to handle using set without passing out or nearly dying. Kushina was perfectly fine where she was for now, seeing how she could easily handle multiple Anbu on her own without exhaustion. Shadow clones were incredibly useful for training purposes, and it showed today. Speaking of Kushina, he got to find out exactly why she and Naomi hated Konoha with a passion almost as strong as he did. So Minato turned out to be a piece of shit. The usual people were fangirls of Minato, and everyone hated them except the old man, Tsume, and her daughter Hana. Amusing. He thought to himself. In certain dimensions, no one had stood by Kushina and her daughter, or in some cases him, after the Kyuubi attack. Everyone called his death, and if she protected him, they called for hers, as well. Another thing, just like in certain dimensions everyone in Konoha hated and despised him, in others they loved him and adored him. After eating dinner and chatting with Tsunami and Tazuna, he resided on the couch and closed his eyes before he felt someone sit on his legs. It was Kushina. She wore a long white t-shirt with the Uzumaki swirl on the back. Her red bangs covered her face, as the rest flowed down to her butt and over his feet. Something wrong? He asked, as he sat up, wrapping an arm around her waist. I just want to thank her. Her voice was soft yet trembling, as if she was about to cry. It's not. Her finger pressed against his lips to silence him. Stop talking, she commanded, and Naruto blinked. Before you showed up, I was losing hope. I was giving my all to show those people that their words and taunts never got to me, that no one would touch my daughter or threaten her without losing their life. When Ao showed up, I was honestly hoping he would kill us just to end my daughter's suffering. She didn't deserve to be brought into a world like this. Always putting on a tough front for her, and being comfortable when she cried at night when the villagers and shinobi's taunts got to her. When you showed up and gave us those memories, you gave us hope again. You gave me hope. The tears were falling freely from the woman's violet eyes. Naruto brought her close and rubbed her back soothingly, whispering sweet words into her ear, calming her down. She gripped his shirt tightly as she sniffed, rubbing her head into his chest. I'm so glad Tamari and Mei taught me how to deal with women. He thought back to his first wife. Eventually Kushina fell asleep, so Naruto carried her up to her room she shared with Anko and Naomi and knocked on it. Naomi peeked out and gasped, Mom. Is she okay? She asked. Yeah, she's just mentally and emotionally tired, Naruto said, as he handed Kushina over to Anko, who opened up the door. Thanks, we'll make sure she rests, Anko said. Naruto nodded and went back downstairs. In order to take over this world and not risk draining it dry with warfare, we'll need powerful and influential allies. Yami, Naruto said from the dark depths of Naruto's mind. Indeed, but first we need to see who's who and who's worth converting and who just needs to be put down like dogs. There had been times when not even the other Jinchuriki liked Naruto, not that he cared. They had treated the Biju like their villages did, with resent, only calling on their chakra to defend themselves, and then talking down on them afterwards. Made it easier for him to rip out the tailed beasts and give them freedom. The only ones that continually understood and liked Naruto actually were the tailed beasts themselves, seeing as how they could all bond together in some form of way. Not everyone is worth saving, that I've learned and understood, Naruto muttered as he laid back down on the couch. Those that oppose the Lord of Chaos all die in the end, begging for mercy and forgiveness for their stupidity. Worlds have been conquered, this one will not be any different. With Yami's laughter in his head, Naruto fell asleep with a smirk on his face with one last thought. No, it will not. The next day. Once again Naruto was in the woods watching Naomi and Anko battle the clones. Kushina was ordered to sleep. He had 2 clones watching the house, and 2 more clones following the Tsunami, who had gone out for groceries. He snapped his fingers and watched as the clones disappeared, leaving the 2 females confused. Your next opponent will be me, he said as he stood up. Immediately both girls looked terrified, but we weren't ready, Naomi said, backing up when he glared at her. So you're admitting you're a loser? A worthless shinobi? If you don't have the guts to fight someone stronger than you and find a way to beat them, then you are pathetic. Worthless. A waste of time. What good are you anyways? He yelled, taunting her. Hey, don't talk to her like that. Anko yelled upon seeing the rage build up in the girl's face. What are you gonna do about it? Cry with your pillow stuff in your face again. If you aren't going to fight me, then you're just as worthless as she is, snake whore. Those words immediately sent the two into a blind rage, as they lashed out at Naruto, who simply grinned. Ducking under a kick from Anko, he backhanded Naomi to the ground, then blocked a punch from Anko before kicking her down. Tajikage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naomi yelled, as 50 clones appeared in the clearing with katanas, the original with the special sword she had been given. Cute, but I've got a better sword. Holding a hand in the air, a sword formed out of thin air into his grasp. Its grip was covered in bandages, the blade completely black, though easily showing Naruto's reflection. Naomi and her clones simply growled, as they ran towards the Otsutsuki. Naruto blocked the first few wild slashes of some clones, and easily dispelled them with a slash across the chest or decapitation. Ducking to avoid a group of snakes aiming for his face, he sent a wordless Shinra Tensei towards Anko, who was pushed into the woods. He jumped back to avoid an explosive tag going off right in front of him, and smirked at the blue bowl of energy in Naomi's right hand. Looks like you completed the Rasengan after all, I'm shocked. He mocked her. Said girl just screamed with rage, as she attempted to attack him with it only for the ball to self-implode on her, sending her into a tree. Too much chakra, not even balance. He scolded, as he dispelled 4 more clones. Kaden. Ryuka no Jutsu. Naruto whistled in appreciation at the large fire dragon heading his way at a high speed. Looks like her reserves are improving greatly, I'm impressed. He substituted himself with a wood clone nearby in the tree, and watched as it melted. He jumped down from the tree just as Naomi pounced on the branch he was at only to recuperate, and surrounded him with Anko. In Jutsu's fine lesson 2, he backhanded Anko, then kicked Naomi, sending them both to the ground, only for them to get back quickly, and rush him. Using his flexibility, he jumped over Anko using her shoulders as springs. However, Naomi, expecting this, slammed another incomplete Rasengan into his face, the same result as before, blowing up, sending all 3 flying back, and creating a shockwave that sent all animals in the area that had been watching them scattering for safety. With Kushina. Kushina was currently in a red and white apron, a red shirt, and skin-tight black pants, helping Tsunami with the dishes preparing for dinner. She was thinking back to before Naruto came into their lives. She was at an all-time low before he showed whether or not she liked it, it was true. Dealing with when would someone get the balls to attack Naomi or them together at once, when would Jiraiya and Kakashi attack her daughter when they had somehow once broken into their home, when would Danzo and his rude attempt to attack them, it was stressful. On top of the fact she didn't trust anyone from Konoha, and had to get their food and clothing from outside the village, it was tiring. She was only one person, as Anko was already disliked heavily due to her past apprenticeship to Orochimaru, and soon had her own clan and family to worry about. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.